All right, I'm delighted to say we've got Ian Madigan here with us, looking fresh on his summer holidays. Are you actually on your summer holidays at the moment?
Officially on a break. I've already done 4 weeks of pre-season, so Pat has kindly given us 2 weeks of our own time now. We've been told specifically we've got to stay in shape, but I am on a break.
2 weeks isn't very long. Like, it's not like the kind of really long off-season that you would expect from people. And
No, from being in the Championship, we finished our season at the end of April, so we had 4 weeks off through May, and then came back in at the end of May and did a 4-week training block, and now we've 2 weeks off, back in for another 3-week training block, another week off, and then that will see us into pre-season games and the season then. Okay,
you're putting your time off to good use. You're in Dublin for the launch of a new company tomorrow, is that right?
Yeah, so I was previously involved with a company called Fantasy Rugger, which was online gaming platform for, you'd pick your team and compete against your friends and that kind of thing. That company got sold or bought over by a company called Rugby Pass, and now we've gone a different avenue, and with the new GDPR regulations being brought in, over the last year we've been building a product to give companies a tool to make them GDPR compliant, and ultimately with the new GDPR regulations you've got to be data compliant, and we're looking to give customers back control of their data via a data gateway tool. So we're doing a launch tomorrow night, and the company's now live. It's called Data Ships.
When did you decide that you needed to do all this stuff while the rugby career was going on? Because I know there's some people, we talk to some sports people who are like, I don't want to think about anything because I just want to make sure that I'm focused, and I would always feel like I was distracting myself. And then other people are like, I need to be distracted because otherwise I'll just think about it the whole time.
Yeah, I think it's really important that you have that balance. And when I look back on previous years of my career, I probably didn't. I would have been like the guy who was just focused and thinking, what am I doing right now to be a better rugby player? And you can't do that for 24 hours in the day because you'll just burn out. So I suppose like being surrounded with the likes of Jamie Heaslip and Owen Redden and Shane Jennings, you'd always hear of them doing, a business degree or a master's or getting work experience during the summer, and hearing about different companies that they might be involved in. And I suppose I was always keeping my eye out for opportunities to get involved in. And I was lucky I was approached by 2 guys in school to get involved with this company initially, and they were always in classes a few ahead of me in school, so I knew that they were smart guys, and just got involved on a low level initially, and it's just grown over the last 3 or 4 years, and something that I've really enjoyed.
Does it help you to be a better rugby player? Like, is that the other side of this, that it legitimately frees up your mind from worrying a little bit about, like, we all know rugby is a contact sport, and so many of your peers end up finishing early because of injury, that at least you're thinking, okay, well, I don't really have to worry too much about that. I'm starting to do stuff, and when I need to put my full time into it, I will. But in the meantime, actually, I can just concentrate on this now.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's really important to have that focus outside of rugby as well. And I know the rugby's not going to last forever, and the better I am prepared during my career for when that day comes, the easier the transition is going to be. Post-rugby. Yeah.
What's Pat Lam like? Obviously, that's the other kind of major Irish aspect of what's going on with you guys at Bristol at the moment. We obviously really felt like he was a huge loss to the Irish coaching ticket and the setup, and especially given that David Yusufor has made it pretty clear that you need to be in that setup if you're going to be an Ireland coach into the future. You guys are clearly benefiting from that at the moment.
Yeah, Pat's a brilliant coach. The foundation of what he does is he's an extremely hard worker. He's first in the mornings, last out in the evenings. He's our director of rugby, but he's very much in control of all aspects. So he works very closely with our defence coach, our attack coach. Even like he keeps a very close eye on our back sessions. He's very much got his finger on the pulse across the board. I suppose it's what he does consistently is what makes him a great coach. He's extremely diligent in the same way that Joe Schmidt is. He'll just, if he sees something, he'll say it, and that can be very powerful over a long period of time.
Because it seems to be, it's interesting when you say that, because there seems to be kind of an interesting split at the moment between coaching that involves surrounding yourself with great people, or people like Pat Lam. From what you're saying, it sounds like he's the one who's going to oversee it all and he'll have a hand in every different part of it. Whereas if you look at Leinster right now, it seems that Leo Cullen has kind of given out his work a little bit more. He's hired well. He's brought in Stuart Lancaster, Felipe Contepomi obviously this week as well. And it seems that there is a bit of a contrast there.
Yeah. I think when you look in the UK, you see there's different coaching structures across the board, and even in Ireland now you're seeing different coaching structures in the province. So you could have a director of rugby who sits at the top and doesn't actually coach, but just delegates to the other coaches and selects the team. But Pat, that's not Pat's style. He's very much a coach. So he's out there on the field every day, and yeah, look, that suits him. But I think depending on your resources, you can go with a different, different technique, and have someone at the top who's able to delegate, and coaches are presenting to him what they intend to do with the players every day, and that can be very powerful as well.
Is his style of play at Bristol the same as it would have been at Connacht? Like, is that what he does? He wants the team to play, and is it the same kind of pods system that he would have had, or has he changed depending on the resources?
It's definitely evolved again. Like with Pat, his attacking philosophy is, we want to go either through a team, around a team, or over a team. So it's ultimately just finding a way to win, really. The way he has the team set up is very structured, and it's very nice as an out half to play in that structure, because everyone's in the right position. Because he's extremely diligent in how he coaches and how he does his video sessions, to the extent that if you're a yard or a foot out of place, or a yard too deep, a yard too flat, he'll say it to you and he'll get you in the right position. And when you're doing that over a period of a year, 2 years, it comes into something very structured. How do you
describe it? Is it still the width of the pitch? And
yeah. So it is very much a numbers game with Pat as well. He's for example, he'll look to trap the opposition front row and try and get mismatches with our back three against their front row or front five. The system we're playing at the moment is 1-3-3-1. So you've got a back row on each edge, and their main role is to maintain the width. So if they're not doing it, our wingers will do it for us. And similar, if there's 4 people in the backfield, his philosophy is there has to be space in the front line. So, we'd look to run, whereas if there's only 1 in the backfield or 2 in the backfield, then there should be space for crossfield kicks or to find grass, in the back. And that is kind of his theme for his entire game plan. So, a large part of my role would be getting my head up and counting, there's only 3 on the short side there, or it's a midfield ruck, they've got 7 on one side and 4 on the other side, we've got to get over there, and exploit that with one of the plays that you'd have practiced in training.
Presumably your teammates get good at signalling that to you as well.
Exactly.
And you're trying to tell them, shut up, I can see it, but don't shout it.
Yeah, a large part of how my role works is really executing what my teammates see. So, if you're at centre or full back, you're not as close to the ball, you have much better vision of it all.
Yeah.
So, they're then telling me, for example, top right is free for a kick, or there's only 3 out here, and calling in a specific play for that.
Has that the way it's always been in your career, or are you always open to the idea of other people giving you the instructions, or do you rather actually just take the game by the scruff of the neck and say to yourself and to the teammates, I'm the game manager here and I can see what's going on and I'm going to execute it?
No, it certainly hasn't been for all my career. It wasn't that way in France. It was probably quite similar with Joe. Joe would have the team set up, very well, and there'd be information getting fed into you. And, I suppose majority of out halves will tell you it's they're at their best when they're just being told what to execute, and the reading of the game is when you're just trusting your instincts. So you're getting your head up and going, they're short there, and you're just trusting your instinct, kicking the ball into the corner, or seeing that they're short on the edge of the line and throwing out a missed pass or whatever it might be. What's a lot tougher is when you're not getting any information into you, or a call is sent into you, and you look out to execute, and you see a completely different picture to what you might have seen when the call was called previously. So you're kind of going, where do I throw this pass? He seems to be way too wide or way too deep. And a good coach will be diligent enough to go through, training sessions and games and let guys know this is where you need to stand for this move to work as best as possible. So I think he can look very indecisive when the structure around you is poor.
Yeah.
Because you're just trying to read the game off the cuff, I suppose.
That structure is really, it's almost less for you in some ways as well, in that structure is to inform everybody else what they're supposed to be doing and then give you the freedom within that to go, okay, there is something on here or there isn't.
Yeah, exactly. So, and it's very good for example, our front five. He really manages them well. Like, he's extremely strategic in the sense that he doesn't want them having to cover the whole field. So they'll mainly work between the 15s.
Right.
And it allows them to get their quality efforts in there, as opposed to a scrum being in the 5 metre line and they end up over in a wide ruck on the far 5 metre line, and then they're chasing back again, and suddenly the ball gets turned over and they're absolutely knackered.
Yeah.
So
they're power athletes and you want to be able to use them.
Exactly.
And so this season has been the best season in terms of your own skill set and all that. That's the other aspect of his coaching that everybody talks about. I remember Gavin Duffy saying he made them all get rugby balls and live with them when he first came over, and I thought, this is all bollocks. And then a couple of weeks later they were like, we're not dropping any passes anymore, this is funny.
Yeah, I think what definitely worked in our advantage as well, Pat was coming into a new team, and if we were in the Premiership last year, we would have had probably 2 months to prepare for the Premiership. And it would have been a bit of a rush job, in the sense that you're trying to get all your structures in place. How you set up for a restart, defence, attack, philosophy, getting to know him as a person. He's learning, finding out what all the players are capable of, their strengths and that kind of thing. And it definitely would have been a rush. And you can't get off to a slow start in the Premiership, especially with the way relegation is. Whereas being in the Championship for the year, it allowed him to just build it slowly, I guess, and build a really strong foundation. And what I've seen now over the last kind of few months is he's just adding layers to that now. And I think there's going to be quite a bit more to come now.
Do you feel like you're a better player?
Do I feel like I'm a better player off the back of coaching?
Yeah,
yeah, definitely, yeah. I think when you get surrounded by a new coach and new players, you're going to start learning, new tools to add to your game. And while France wasn't, a brilliant rugby experience, I still learned a lot over there off other players. A different rugby culture, how the French can get up for a game, and ultimately there's far more than one way to win a game, and I certainly learned that over there.
The distance from the French experience now, what are the things that you can take from it, and what went wrong in retrospect?
It's hard to pinpoint on one thing. I was obviously responsible for it not going well as well. It's not a blame game. I certainly don't want to go down that route. I went over there and got off to a good start. We were coming, I think, in the top 4 after 6 or 7 games, or 8 games, I think it was. And I think we won our first 3 or 4 games. But I never felt that we had something that was sustainable there. This game plan this could see us into the playoffs of the top 14.
Yeah.
So I suppose that was one part of it.
Do you have a relationship with the coaches at that point where you can go, can we try some other things here? Is there a room for us to grow?
Yeah, that was one thing I didn't really have over there. It wasn't what I'd hoped to be, in the sense that you could go into the head coach and talk through, he'd bounce ideas off you, or you give your opinion of exactly what you think the team needs from a player's perspective, and get his view on what he thinks the team needs from a coaching perspective, what you think is working well, or the team's work-ons as such. There wasn't really an open dialogue over there. It was very much just going week to week. And
that's a culture shock after Leinster, I presume, is it?
Yeah, big time. If there's not a grand plan there, you're going to come undone pretty quickly, because teams will figure out, this is how that team beat them 2 weeks ago. Let's just do that again. And if you're not evolving as a team and improving week on week, then you're going to keep losing.
Yeah.
Was there any big differences, or was there any surprise on your part by any of the basics, like even in diet or anything like that? Because Ronan O'Gara often talks about going into the racing setup, and he was absolutely shocked with how behind they were in terms of the stuff that was available to them in the canteen, for example.
Yeah, like I suppose they do things differently over there, and you can't say everything they do is wrong. Like some of the stuff they do is brilliant. Like, and as pure athletes, like the French are incredible athletes naturally. Like compared to what we have, just from population, gives them a massive advantage. You're going to have big fast guys if you've got 60 million plus people, as opposed to scrambling with their 4 million.
In the shallow gene pool in Ireland.
Yeah, so you've got guys that are really fast, really fit, but their focus is different. Like they don't have as big a focus on the weights in the gym. They're probably a bit more laid back on the diet side. But saying that, there'd still be guys who'd be extremely professional over there. But it's just, I suppose, more of a mix. But that wasn't the reason why it didn't work out for me over there. It was more just it was tough not having a good relationship with the coach, not really having not feeling like the club had a direction that they were travelling in. And then I suppose it was just the management of my own body. Like the training over there was just so inconsistent. You could go in there one day and cover 10 kilometres, and then the following day be back down to 2 or 3, and then be back up. You could be on the pitch for 2 or 3 hours, and training with windows of real intensity, and then like a big drop off. Training with intensity and a big drop off, and I think over time that just took its toll on my body a bit.
Yeah. Because just chatting to me beforehand, you were kind of just talking a little bit about how this pre-season that you were talking about with Bristol is something that you're really glad you've had, because it gives you the opportunity then to go into the Premiership confident that you've got that work done and that you're going to be able to maintain your form over the course of the whole season. Yeah,
big time. Like the pre-season is very much your foundation for the year. And if you're going into a pre-season injury free and you can get a block of 2 or 3 months of really good weights and conditioning in, that will see you through a large part of the season. And it means that during the season you're just doing maintenance work. So all you really need is 1 lower body session and 2 upper body sessions a week, and that will see you through. And then maybe when you get a week off or 2 weeks off in the season, you can push again and make a small bit of gains.
Yeah.
But ultimately, like in the season, you're really looking just to maintain. But it's in those pre-season blocks that you need to get like your fitness up, your lower body strength up. And if you don't have that in pre-season, you're going to really struggle when it gets to November, December, and the body starts to fatigue and the mind is getting fatigued. You can't just kind of go, I'm going to start training harder now, because you've got a game coming every Saturday.
Yeah.
It's going to be very, very tough.
The out half position is one that we've seen players be able to do into their mid to late 30s at club level. So you've got, you're kind of entering the sweet spot of your career now, where you have all that experience behind you. You've got the bunch of different rugby environments. You're a seasoned international, and you fully understand exactly what you need to do to put yourself in a position to succeed. So what are your own personal goals? Like what do you want to do? What do you want to do with the rest of your rugby career?
My number one goal is still to play for Ireland. It always has been. Like when I left Leinster, it was to become a better out half, to be able to perform for Ireland, and that is no different. And what I'm working on with Pat over in Bristol is to be the best rugby player I can be for the team in Bristol, and my role over there is to do that. And if I'm doing that really well in the Premiership next year, obviously selection's out of my hands, but it'd still be my ultimate goal to come back and play for Ireland.
Does that mean coming back to Ireland at some point and play within the system? Like, I know Pat Lam was saying you've just signed a long-term deal with Bristol, so obviously for the foreseeable future, for the next couple of seasons, that's off the cards. But to put yourself in a position where, like, the Irish provinces are going, we really need to get this guy over here.
Yeah, and that's ultimately over to me. I need to be playing really, really well for them to be looking at me going, we need that guy in our team. So, I've had a long road over the last 3 years. It's been pretty frustrating for me. I had a year after the World Cup where Johnny was back in Leinster and I was, mainly sitting on the bench. Then went to France, and the majority of that year was pretty frustrating, especially when I announced mid-season that I was, going to be moving on. I was very much pushed to the side then, and then a year in the championship as well. So I've been sitting on that for the last 3 years, and I'm now in a situation where I've got a great coach in a really good team. One that I feel really comfortable in. So I feel like it's teed up for me now this year. So it's just about taking that opportunity and playing as best as I can.
What are you feeling when you're watching Leinster and Ireland and watching them succeed so widely?
Happiness. It was tough initially when I was first away from the Leinster team or the Irish team, and you're looking in and you're just used to being a part of that. You're just kind of watching. You're just kind of feeling a bit numb, I suppose. You're certainly not cheering the other team on or anything like that. But then as time goes on, I'm still a big Leinster supporter, and grew up supporting the team, and obviously so passionate about Ireland. So I watch the games, cheer the guys on, and be texting them before the games, wish them the best of luck, and it's great to see Leinster and Ireland getting the success they did this year, and it was well deserved.
It's funny because Sexton's obviously at some point in the next couple of years going to be coming to the natural end of his career, and at that point there's going to be the incumbent number 2 at Leinster. There's obviously the Joey Carbery situation, and clearly there'll be a role there for somebody else to come in and fulfil. And if you are the best out half who is Irish qualified over the next couple of years, you can see that being a fairly natural thing that happens. But that would also, to be able even to be thinking like that or talking like that, that's like it's wishing away your life to a point where you won't actually be able to fulfil it. So there's that old awful sports cliche of making sure that you're doing the business right now is something you've got to look after. So it's a weird situation to be in a bit.
Yeah,
which would all be fixed if they would just pick people who played in England and France.
They still might. I think for me it's very much, as you said, living in the now and doing as best as I can with the current hand that I've been dealt. I made the decision to leave Leinster, and I'll stand by that, and I've no regrets.
Were you ever tempted to join one of the other Irish provinces at that point, or did you feel like you had to go away?
No, I definitely I looked at it and weighed it up. At the time, I thought the best opportunity for me was in Bordeaux. And that decision didn't work out, but I don't regret going over. It's something I learned a huge amount from, but I don't look back on and going, I wish I'd gone to this province, or I wish I'd gone to the UK.
I mean, Sexton went to Racing, it didn't work out, but it was still a really important thing for him to do in his career.
Yeah, so, am I a better player for it? Am I, a better person for it? I think I am. So, it was a good decision. And I think, as a professional sports person, you've got to view the hand that you're dealt at the time and go, look, these are my different options. I think that's the best one for me. And you talk to the people who you trust, and they give you the best advice they can, and you just got to go with that. And then there's no looking back after that.
Yeah.
There's only one of you, and you can't go back in time. So for me at the moment, I'm loving it in Bristol, and because I'd had that kind of long road to get into this situation with a good coach, a good team in the Premiership, not having to move again, I was pretty set on staying there.
Yeah, and being first choice helps.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, I know he's a competitor of yours, really, ultimately, but what advice would you have then for Joey Carbery at this point? Because, there's talk about him at some point in the future going back as well, but he can't think like that, and Munster can't think like that. So he's just got to go down there and go, this is my team now, I don't play for that other team.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it's going to be... you can't be thinking, potentially coming back. Munster are now his team, and he's got to be fully 100% committed to that. And if he's thinking any other way, then there's a good chance it would fail. And from knowing Joey, he'll be all hands on deck there. And the advice you have for him is just go down there, train hard, and he's a fantastic player, and there's no doubt he'll make it a success down there.
Yeah, the future situation at Leinster, where there are so many players coming through at the same time, it is going to be very cutthroat, and we are going to end up with a load of Leinster's players playing in Connacht and Ulster and Munster and in England. That's just what's going to happen because the schools are producing so many good players.
Yeah, it's just so competitive now. You look at the academy, it's just a queue of guys coming through. Like the Leinster A team played Bristol in the BNI Cup, and I was watching the game, and I was away from the club maybe a year and a half, and there was guys coming through that I didn't really recognise, and they were, some fantastic players. And then you're watching Leinster playing in the European Cup the following day. You're kind of going, what way are these guys going to get into the Leinster team? And it's very, very tough. It's so competitive. But are they good enough to be, professionals in another Irish province? Absolutely. Are they good enough to go over to the UK and have a great career? Without doubt. But are they good enough to pass out the guys that are ahead of them in Leinster? It's very tough.
We did want to just talk briefly about the 2015 World Cup, and that is one of those performances where the aftermath, the entire thinking of Joe Schmidt changes, because we just didn't have the required depth. Ultimately, we ended up missing 3 key forwards who are injured or suspended from the France game to the Argentina game. So, what's your recollection of the Argentina game at this point?
It's still a bit of a haze, really, to be honest. Did
you ever watch it back?
No, I've never watched it back. Never really reviewed it. Something I probably should do. It was just one of those games that, like any match, if you played it 5 times, I reckon we would have won a few times, but you only get one shot, got off to a slow start, got ourselves in a position to potentially win the game. Didn't take that opportunity, and then it stepped away from us at the end. It was such a disappointment, really, having gone from the ultimate high the week before of beating France, getting effectively a home quarter, a seed 1 quarter final, to then 5-6 days later it all being over. It was a tough pill to take. All right.
Yeah, the early tries are actually the thing that kills us, right? Getting back into the game takes such a serious effort that the team is almost a bit spent from that.
Yeah, and it was something my granddad actually said to me when I was growing up. He said so often I've seen in sport, be it soccer, Gaelic football, rugby, when a team does go behind and they use the energy to get back and get level, the team that was originally ahead then retakes the lead. So often that happens in sport, and it actually crossed my mind during the game. I was kind of thinking, we're nearly back level here. We need to keep the foot in the gas. But I suppose the brakes didn't quite go our way in that last 20 minutes, and that was it. Do
you reflect on that game? Is that something that you think about a lot, or is it something that you kind of go, okay, I need as a sports person not to think about that too much?
Yeah, no, I did. I thought about it for a very long time afterwards. What could I have done differently? What did give me peace of mind was I felt my preparation for the game couldn't have been any better. As in what I could control as my preparation, and that does give you peace of mind. You go, if I went back, would I have done anything differently? Maybe now I would have, because I know more, but at the time I was doing absolutely everything I could. And when something like that doesn't work out for you, you think you don't have any regrets, and I don't have any regrets from it, which does give me peace of mind.
The other thing that must give you peace of mind is the quality of the performance the previous week against France, where you come on and steer the ship home.
Yeah,
your form was good. That you were playing well at that stage.
Yeah, no, I did. I felt like I was playing well. I was very comfortable in the system Joe had at the time. I felt really fit and strong. Thought my goal kicking was in a good place. It was. It was just one of those ones. Maybe it was a step too far for us with all the injuries and suspensions, as you mentioned. But I've no doubt that if we played that game, 10 times, we probably would have won it, 6 or 7 times. It was just one of those days where they got off to a fast start and we struggled to recover from it.
Yeah.
It seems like there's been a lot of lessons learned from that perspective, from that game, just from Joe Schmidt's perspective, really, over the last couple of years, and how he approached even the 3-test series over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, that's a measure of Joe, that for someone who's such a quality coach, that he's always learning himself, and he'll openly say that, which is great. And I think the way he managed to fit so many guys in, getting them starts in Australia, will really stand to him going into next year's November series and Six Nations and leading on to the World Cup. That can only be a massive positive to give guys those high level games, because I think that will just, for example, Rob Herring and Scannell getting starts, you know, that's going to just push their thresholds all the way up. So when they're back playing, you know, playing for Ulster or Munster now, it's going to seem pretty easy for them, you know, and they're going to be thinking, oh, I'm above this level, and that's going to drive them on even further again. And then when they get to the November internationals, they've been there, done that. It's nothing as daunting as kind of going, you know, I've only started 1 or 2 international games, as opposed to going, you know, I went away to Australia and put together a really good performance. It's something that they can, you know, really stand over. Yeah,
it's a pretty good time for Irish rugby. It's been like the greatest year of all time by any measures, really. We've never had a year as successful as that, so things are pretty positive at the minute.
Yeah, and you know, that's no fluke. Like, there's been a huge amount of planning in that, and I think the big thing when you, obviously I'm over in Bristol now, and you see the players in the Premiership and players playing with England, and like, they look tired, you know, and they are, because they're just not managed as well. And it's not just from 1 year; it's an accumulative. You know, it's over probably 5 years. You're looking at, let's say, you know, an extra 5, 6, 7 games. That it just adds up, and it takes its toll on you. And that's something that the IRFU have right. You know, that they can. The international players are still fresh come the end of the year, that they can pull out a big, you know, series performance against Australia. And, you know, no doubt when the start of the year comes, they'll be able to perform again.
Ian, great stuff. So if anybody wants any GDPR stuff, where do they go?
So it's dataships.io, and if they have any questions, hello at dataships.io is the email.
Well, best of luck for the coming season. It sounds like you're going to tear up trees at Bristol, and that actually their expectations are more than just staying in the Premiership. Reading what Pat Lam's been saying, it's like he wants to cause a bit of trouble and bloody some noses. Yeah, we'll be aiming up the top, so I think we'll be... hopefully we'll have a point of difference in the league, and teams will struggle when they play us. So no, it's really exciting. Good stuff. Best of luck, Ian.
Thanks very much for having me in.